Welcome to the Loadout Music Podcast, featuring intimate conversations with emerging and established musicians, recorded at the Gaslight Studios in St. Louis. And now your host, Aaron Perlett. Welcome back to Season 3 of the Loadout Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Aaron Perlett, and today I am thrilled to be joined by Jamie Lin Wilson. Jamie Lin, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for making time out of your schedule. Really appreciate you joining us today. I've actually been listening to your stuff for probably about 6 months now, and so I'm really excited we were able to get you on the show.
Nice, good. Well, I'm excited too.
So I need to start with a very basic question. It's really kind of a Texas question.
Oh, I'm down.
All right. What the hell's going on with the three name people out of especially musicians? I mean, I talked to Ray Wiley Hubbard just a couple weeks ago, and
Robert O'Keefe and Jerry Jeff Walker and
Michael Martin Murphy. What is the thing?
William Clark Green.
Yeah, what is it with three name singers and Texas? Is there a legacy? Is there
I don't know. Well, first off, let's start with how two of the people you just named were not actually born in Texas. Jeff Walker is from New York. He made up his own name. Ray Wiley Hubbard was born in Oklahoma.
Yeah, he's from Oklahoma.
He's an Okie.
Yeah.
And a dude in Jerry Jeff Walker's band put his middle name in there.
All right.
I don't even know if that's his actual middle name.
All right.
But with me, there was another Jamie Wilson country singer whenever I decided to go solo and start making my own records. And somebody, I could go to my maiden name, which I was already making music under Wilson. I was already making music under Jamie Wilson with in a couple other bands. So when I went to make a solo record, somebody goes, you have to put Lin in there. Like, you have to do it. My parents called me Jamie Lin my whole life, and I didn't want to be confused with the other one. So I threw it in.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll accept it. We'll accept that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the honest answer. I could make something else up.
No, the honest answer is typically the best one.
But yeah, that's why it's not like a really great story or anything, but I mean, it's my name, so I used it.
I think it's a fair answer. We'll allow it.
Yeah.
Firm
well,
but fair.
Thank you.
So you're a curiosity to me, because I like being able to go and find lots of things about people online.
And I don't have a Wikipedia page or anything.
You don't, and I mean, I know you live near San Antonio, in a town. Is it called D'Hanis?
Yeah, you're the best blind pronouncer.
All right, D'Hanis, but
yeah.
But you're originally where in Texas did you grow up?
Outside of Houston, in a little town called Sealy.
Okay.
So Sealy, Texas is where the mattress company started. You're welcome for your good night's sleep. And tiny town too.
So, but I know that you didn't start, I guess, formally playing music until you picked up the guitar when you were at Texas A&M, right? Did you?
Right.
But did you, as a kid, like many of us do, start singing in church, or were you always walking around singing as a kid, or is that something you just never really took to until
I did like to sing. It was something that I did when I was by myself, like mowing the yard.
Mm-hmm.
I'd mow and ride my little lawnmower and sing really loud, thinking nobody could hear me because the lawnmower's on, but they could all hear me, and I didn't know it. And I did some talent shows whenever I was little, maybe once a year. Not anything that I was pursuing, but like the county fair talent show. My daughter can sing. My dad was on the fair board, so like I kind of had to do it. All the fair board kids had to enter something, so I did that. And I did love it, and it was kind of a pipe dream of, if you could do anything in the world, what would you want to do? And I was like, well, I would love to be a singer, but singers wore ball gowns and went on TV. You know, they were Lorrie Morgan and her glamour, and Reba McEntire on the Country Music Awards. And, you know, it was this huge thing. And I did not have that ambition. Like, I would love to be a singer. I do not want to be famous. I never wanted to be famous. So I went, I'm good at math. I'll be an engineer. So I went to college for mechanical engineering for a long time. For like until I got a guitar. And then once I got a guitar, I was a sophomore in college. And then whenever I was a junior, I changed my major to get out of school so I could be in a band and do this.
So
But it
did you not
clicked, you
finish?
know.
Did you not finish at Texas A&M?
I did finish, yeah.
You did finish.
And yeah, I kind of upped my class load so that I could finish on time, you know. But
So at what point? My understanding was that you actually saw Natalie Maines playing. I don't know if it was a solo show or she was playing with the Chicks or the Dixie Chicks at the time. But she really inspired you to.
yeah, it was something that was like I was out of the dorms already. I was living with my cousin. I loved the Dixie Chicks. I loved all, you know, there were so many, whenever we were growing up, there's so many really great, strong female artists, you know, that I just really latched onto. I loved singing them. So I was like, hey, Dixie Chicks are coming to Houston. Do you want to go? We got tickets. We felt so grown up, you know, drove ourselves an hour and a half to get there. And we were sitting in the stands or in the stadium or whatever. And I guess maybe the other girls went off and it was the Fly tour. I remember there was a big zipper. Joe Ely opened the show.
Mhm.
And Natalie Maines stayed out there by herself and played Cold Day in July, solo acoustic. And I don't know why it clicked at that point that I went, hey, I could probably do that. Like, I bet I could get a guitar. I bet that I could get a guitar and learn how to play it enough to play along with myself singing these songs that I like to sing, you know, in my bedroom.
Mhm.
Like, it's kind of dumb at this point that I'm just singing along to the radio, you know. So my cousin kind of, she heard me, she was talking to me and she was like, yeah, that sounds fun. You know, you should maybe do that. And she told my mom, and then they bought me a guitar for Christmas. So like all within maybe a week or a week and a half, I saw her do that. And then we were at this bar called the Cow Hop in College Station, and I saw a woman playing acoustic and singing her own songs with a fiddle player and an upright bass player. And that was Susan Gibson, who I had never heard of before, who wrote Wide Open Spaces, all within the same week, you know. And I was like, hey, I could maybe even do that. Like, I could get a bass player and a fiddle player and do this for fun. That looks fun. And so it just kind of, the wheel started turning of like this possibility of maybe I am musical, who knows. And then I got a guitar and I learned it really quickly. Like, I picked it up really fast and just kind of never stopped. I don't know. It's kind of late, but it went quickly.
Well, and I know you played, before you kind of launched your solo career, you played in two bands. Was it the Side Hill? I don't know how to pronounce that. So I think
Yeah, the Side Hill Gougers.
Gougers, and then the
Yeah.
Tricias, which is
Yeah.
more of a harmony-oriented, all-female
Right.
band, right?
Right.
So was the Side Hill Gougers, was that your first
Yes.
foray into being in a band?
Yes. I got a guitar. I broke up with my boyfriend. I told him that I would go make new friends. You know, he was like, we have all the same friends. And I was like, it's fine. I'm social. I'll go make new friends, you know. So I found these, like, I stumbled upon an open mic night. I started going there and watching, and I kind of made these friends. And then they realized that I could play guitar, and they kind of shoved me onto the stage. And so from that point, within maybe 2 or 3 months, this guy that was playing the open mic night and was having gigs around town with his band. His name was Shane Walker. He was like, "Hey, do you want to be in my band? I need a chick singer, and we could be like Fleetwood Mac without all the sleeping together." And I was like, I don't know. I barely even know how to do what I'm doing. Like, I couldn't even open my eyes on stage yet. I still would get so stage fright. And but I went and opened for his band, and then I started sitting in with his band, and then eventually I just joined it. And that is what was the Gougers.
How long? So you started at 19, right? When you picked up the guitar?
Yeah.
How long did it take you until you started really composing something and you were like, huh, I've kind of, this is actually not so shitty, you know?
Well, it took about, I don't know, I'd say 5 or 6 months until I wrote a song.
Yeah.
Not that I showed anybody, but I was, learning how to play other songs, and then I just started to make up my own words. And so then I went, whoa, wow. I just not only could play music, but I also wrote something. That's weird, but it was maybe like, I don't know, 8 months or so before I had something that I would show somebody. And that's whenever I was just starting to kind of get into this little songwriter group of people there in College Station.
Yeah, I went through something similar, but at a much later stage in life. I picked up the guitar when I was maybe 46, and lyrics. I've always been a writer. I mean, I've written for Forbes and for ESPN.com and what have you.
Yeah.
So lyrics, it was just an extension of that, very, very easy for me. But
Yeah.
the composition to me is the hardest part, and it took me about 10 months to start building composition and understanding song structure and what chords actually work together and didn't.
Right. It took a long time before I figured out any of that. Like
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, especially
yeah.
if you don't when you don't grow up with that ear and you build that ear from a young age for it, it's a little more mechanical at first, but then once you get it, you kind of get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I still wish that I didn't know how chords went together. I think that you know, I think that sometimes my melodies were maybe more interesting whenever I didn't know where those chords were supposed to go. Like I hear people that are just starting to write, and I'm like, whoa, how'd you put those chords together? That's weird. Oh, I used to do that before I knew better,
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm envious of people who don't learn, any sort of music theory.
Yeah, I'm terrible when it comes to music theory. Uh, so you're in the Gougers then.
Mm-hmm.
So how long does that last for you?
We graduated. Both of us ended up graduating the same year, and then we lasted like 6 more years after graduation.
Yeah.
So I think that we played our last show in 2009, which is about the same. Ah, kick my microphone. I'm losing all my things. Am I still connected?
You're still connected.
All right, great. Sorry, I'm clumsy. Um, it. So yeah, we played our last gig in 2009, which is right at the beginning of whenever the Tricias started.
And so the Tricias, and you go into the Tricias, and it's a very different kind of band, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Very harmony oriented. It's an all female group. What? Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, well, I had already the Gougers was also a lot of harmony. So it was like kind of like a Graham and Emmy Lou type. We
Mm-hmm.
both sang, a lot on every song. So I was already kind of versed in the harmony thing. The difference that it was, number one, I was traveling with all girls instead of all guys. So that changes, but all the other girls in the band had also come from that situation. So we were all kind of guys, girls, which we were all
Tomboys.
pretty. yeah, like laid back, and like
Yeah.
we kind of took some time to get to know each other first, because we didn't really know each other. We kind of got put together for this one-off show, and then we ended up liking each other, and people started offering us shows, and I was like, we're not even a band. Like, we know 3 songs for this, and we're a Kevin Welch cover band. Stand by. Like, we don't even have anything. So we got to know each other, and figured out if we could do it or not, and decided to give it a shot. And um, the difference is that I went from being the least experienced member of the band. Like, I joined Shane's band. He taught me how to play guitar on stage. I learned from watching him how to do it. I learned stage banter from that band. Like, so many things I learned from being with more experienced people. So I went from being the least experienced, then all of a sudden I was a leader. And I kind of had to step up. I remember the first time, like whenever I was in the Gougers, I didn't talk on stage. I didn't really have a stage presence. I was just kind of the chick singer who stood over to the side and sang harmony,
Mm.
and then like I sang lead every other song, but I didn't talk about them. I didn't tell stories or jokes or anything. And then all of a sudden I went, "Oh, I can do this now." Huh. I started like being a little more confident, and remembering that I had to that I had to kind of carry it, because the other girls were a little nervous, or like, or not. Like, Kelly was way fine, and she also talked, and Lizzie would talk too, but she didn't play guitar. She was the percussion player. So I remember feeling a lot of pressure with, in particular, my right hand on the guitar, and going, it is my responsibility to keep us on track here,
Hmm.
like to keep the tempo, to make sure that, so that really changed. And the dynamic of just of traveling with women rather than traveling with girls is, people would go, "Oh, y'all are probably getting in cat fights." They would say that to us. Like, no, actually it's the opposite. If you're driving around with a bunch of dudes, and somebody gets hungry and you want to go eat lunch, and the guys will go, "Whoever's driving gets to pick. I'm picking. We're going to Arby's." And it's not even a discussion or whatever. With girls, it's the whole, "I don't know, where do you want to go?" Like, that's the joke of being married all the time, is that girls don't ever know what they want. But it was like way more compassionate. There was way
Hmm.
more compassion in the van, than hanging out with a bunch of guys. And also, not to be skipped over, is the fact that whenever, one of the major reasons I quit the Gougers is because I wanted to start having babies. And that guy was not into me having babies. He did not think that it was a great idea, good timing at all. And it's like, well, I've been married for 5 years. We're ready. We're ready to start having babies. We got to figure out how to do it. So when the Tricias started, I said that to them. I was like, "Here's the deal, though. Like, I'm about to start a family." And they were like, "Great, cool." So then we started having babies and bringing them on the road. And if that would have been a different situation, my whole life right now would be completely different. Like, that was the luck of the draw, meeting those women and having them be so supportive, and helping me to believe that having a career in this business and having a family is something that can actually go hand in hand, because people don't, especially for women, people don't really, they think that that's weird.
Had you not been in an all female band, um, do you think your career would be where it is today, because you married your college sweetheart, and
Right.
you knew you wanted to have children? Do you think you'd be where you are, or do you think you might have taken a step back, or not have evolved as far as you have?
I'm not sure that I would have had the confidence to to go and do it by myself yet. Like, I think that I probably would have gone, okay, we're starting to have babies. Like, I need to, I didn't have the songs. I didn't have I couldn't have gone to make a solo record really.
Mm.
Like I had probably 5 or 6 I actually made a little solo EP between the Gougers and the Tricias. So I had those amount of songs, but I don't think that I had really the confidence. And if I would have hired the band that I would have hired, the guys that I was friends with at the time, it would have been weird to have a baby on the road
Mm.
with those guys. Like they were great friends of mine and they still are great friends. But when we were 27, 26, 27, like they weren't in the mindset to be traveling with a baby. But those girls, I do believe that, like that I wouldn't have had the confidence to do it with a kid on the road. I would have taken time off, maybe years. Who knows, really? But with them, I had it in my head, like, if I do this, we're taking a baby. And even at the beginning, I wasn't sure of how it would work, but it's a thing that I do with my own self. I go, nope, this is happening. I don't know how, but it'll come together. Like it'll work. Whatever it's going to do, it'll work. And that's what I did at the time. And the fact that they were with me and excited about it with me,
Mm.
that was a major deal. And my mom would come on the road with us and watch the baby, or we would hire a family friend or something to come with us and help us out. And then Savannah had a baby, and then I had another one. And one time at one point we had 3 kids on the road in a van with 5 women and a tour manager.
So how does that work with your husband, Roy? Did he tour with you too, or was he staying at home working, doing whatever he does?
Yeah, he did once. He came with us on a run to North Carolina whenever I think I was pregnant with the second kid, and we had like a 2-year-old. And
Mm.
so he came out and helped with Joni, and he did not like it. He was like, nope. Nope, I don't like this going to a different town every day thing. Like, this sucks. I'm not in. And also, yeah, he is an entrepreneur here at home. He's a handyman and a construction, like he builds houses now. Back then he was doing remodeling and building his business. And so he couldn't just take off time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like I was out there making a ton of money.
Yeah. So
So
let me ask you this. You bring up a really interesting point. So I remember having a conversation with John Oates of Hall & Oates, who was one of our guests on season 1, and it was actually offline. And we were talking about guitars, and I was asking him about guitar choices because I was investing in a new electric guitar. And I said, look, I'm a rhythm guitarist. I'm trying to find what I have now is just not the right guitar for me. It's like, there's really no differentiation in truth between a lead guitar and a rhythm guitar. He said, it's really about, if you like it and you look cool with it. When you're pregnant on stage, how do you look cool when you're pregnant on stage? Does that go through your mind? I mean, I can't think of it from a woman's perspective. So is that
yeah,
are you thinking to yourself, there's this rock
I
and roll
think
image?
less of, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you do
I
that?
mean, it's funny to go before I was pregnant on stage with each of them. So it's funny to go back and look at my choices, what I wore on stage or and each kid, you carry them differently and you feel different each time. So, I mean, I would just put it off to the side. With my last kid, nobody, like I would turn to the side and play. So the guitar was still facing the front, but I was kind of facing the side. And because if you do it out here, it just doesn't work.
Right,
Like
right.
I couldn't even reach it. So the guitar would end up being over here on the side while I play. And it's still, actually, I still play like that. a lot, like where my body turns, but the guitar's on the side. And it's really the trick is figuring out how to stand up for that long and move your body for that long. Like with the Tricias, when I was pregnant with Maggie, the second kid, I was playing kick drum the whole time. Also, like, so standing on one foot, playing kick drum, playing the rhythm acoustic. And I remember at the end of those shows feeling like a full body workout, going, God, this is, I'm 30 pounds heavier right now. This is a trick. But I mean, I really did. I remember going, it's just, especially I was in a band with a bunch of beautiful women. Like they were beautiful and had gorgeous bodies, and then I'm fat and pregnant, like there's already a thing there where I'm like, okay, let's just get this over with.
We got
But,
now we got 90 minutes to be up on that stage and then we're done.
yeah,
We just plow
yeah,
through
let's
that.
just go do it. And then whenever with the last kid, I was touring solo already, and with the third one too. With the two girls, I was in the Tricias. With the two boys, I was solo. But I remember one time I almost passed out on stage in Kansas. It was like they gave me the 3 p.m. slot in like July, and I was like, I'm too pregnant for this.
Not optimal for pregnancy.
It's way too hot. Like I'm gonna have to. I always tell Maggie, the second one, that I almost had her in West Virginia, because I was like, you were almost a West Virginian, because we were playing Mountain Stage. We were playing the Mountain Stage show, and we had 4 songs, and I started feeling contractions in the third one, and I was like 35 or 36 weeks pregnant. And I was like, I'm gonna have to go lay down back there. Liz came up and she's like, what do you need? And I was like, 4 bottles of water and for y'all to leave me alone. And she's like, done. She brings me all this water. Made it.
So you're in the Tricias, you get to open for Todd Snyder, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I mean, you got some great exposure. At what point are you like, it's time for me to do my own thing?
Well, we kind of came to that conclusion, kind of all of us together, a few of us anyway. We at the very beginning, we all went into the band kind of reluctantly. We had kind of other things going on and didn't really want to join other bands, because Kelly and I and Liz had all just come out of a band, and so we went into it going, all right, we'll just ride this until it's done. Like we kind of knew, like we're at some point going to hit a part where we decide that it's done. And it was at a point where we either needed to record another record or not. And we looked at all of our lives and assessed our personal lives and where we thought we were as a band, and looked ahead to go, okay, well, if we record another record, we got to write all these songs. We have to, do that whole process again. And then we'll be back in this same space in 2 or 3 years or whatever. And then you always think like, well, what if it works? Like, what if what we're doing works? And then we're all busier and there's more demands and there's more. So that's when we were assessing our personal lives and going, can my marriage handle us being any busier? Like, I have 2 small children. I don't know if we, like it was that going, what if it works? Like, and I'm not in charge. Like for me personally, it was a lot of that. Like I didn't like not being in charge of my own schedule. That was a really big deal to me. Like I was one vote there were 3 other girls in the band plus a manager. And if I got outvoted, then I had to be in Colorado on my kid's birthday. And I didn't want to do that. Like I wanted to, so those were the talks that we were having to have. And we decided to just go ahead and stop touring. We never officially broke up. I mean, we still all hang out a lot and see each other a lot. With all, we did a couple reunion tours. Like we never broke up. We just went, okay, we're just going to not do this anymore. and let, like Liz was already living in Nashville, and we were in different places. It was taking us too much effort to go and do these runs, and so we just went, cool, high five, let's do something else. And Kelly went and joined Shiny Ribs, and she was in that band for a while. And Lizzie moved to Nashville, which is a great band, and that was so fun for her. She actually just quit Shiny Ribs and went solo, so she's putting out songs now as a solo artist too. And anyway, at that point, I did feel like I could do it. I could keep going, and it felt weird to say I can't do this with the band, but I can do it by myself, because I needed those girls so much for so long. And it's not that I didn't love them. It was just that I needed to be in charge of my own schedule in order to stay married.
Sure.
And I like to stay married, you
know. Well, and then ultimately in 2015, you put out your first solo record. That was what, Holidays and
Wedding Rings. Yeah.
How long did it take you once you left the band, the Tricias? How long did it take you to put together the music and really get down what you in recording sessions, what your vision was for it?
I think I had all those songs done and written probably within a year. Some of them were songs that I had already, that didn't make the cut from Tricia's, that never got recorded out of Tricia's stuff. And then I made that plan. I think it was, let's see, Maggie was born in 2012 when we toured with her. And then it was probably 13 when we stopped. Tricia stopped. And then I made that record in 14. So it was all pretty quick. Like I just went right in. And I had all these plans for 2014, and then I ended up being pregnant again.
Roy just
God, I'm so Roy, many. I was talking to somebody the other day. We were having the same kind of conversation. I think it was Todd. I was talking to Todd, and he was like, "Well, when did that happen?" Because we've crossed paths a lot, and I was like, "Let's see, I was pregnant with," and he just started laughing, and I was like, "This is how my mind does. Like, this is how I have to register time: is which kid was little, and which kid was I pregnant with."
Yeah.
So
it's almost like an era. Each child is.
It really is. And anyway, yeah, I was pregnant with TR whenever I made that record, because I remember finding out that I was pregnant and going, "No, I had plans. I was gonna make a record and do this by myself. Now that I have these, toddlers, like I was gonna, And then it took me a couple weeks and went, okay, well, I'm still gonna do it. And then I did. I released the record, and I had the baby in August of 2014, and then I released the record in May of 2015 and took that baby on the road, and he was a perfect little angel.
Yeah. It's funny when I listen to your music, I hear, you always, yeah. I think when you listen to music, you can't help but make comparisons.
Right.
I mean, it happens in sports too.
You see absolutely.
And I hear like dashes of everything from, I know John Prine's one of your heroes, and I definitely hear dashes of John Prine and Patsy Cline and even Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Ooh, good one.
And Guy Clark, who I know you've covered before when you did Instant Coffee Blues.
Yeah, I did Instant Coffee.
But I hear all that coming, at least, I do and it's a very subjective thing when I listen to your music. And you had mentioned some of the the female country stars and of like the 90s and 2000s, which obviously Mary Chapin fits into. And there's a ton of successful women that were in that era of country music. But what really, that's my subjective opinion. What shaped you as you were starting to kind of create your own sense of art outside of the Tricias and the Gougers?
I think that, growing up, of course, it was all of those really strong female voices. There's, you know, Patti Loveless and Pam Tillis and Dolly Parton and Lorrie Morgan and Tanya Tucker, Susie Boggess, all these people, Highway 101, like all these people taught me how to sing
Yeah.
by emulating what they were doing. And then once I started to be an artist and try to find my own voice, because that's a whole other thing, you know, being a young singer, you just sound like everybody who you've ever wanted to be,
Sure.
right? And then you have to figure out what your own actual voice sounds like, whether that is your voice in writing or your voice in singing. Both of those things you eventually stop copying and start to be your own thing. I started to try to develop my own voice as a writer and as a singer. And whenever I did that, I started to listen um well, also a lot of Gillian Welch is one of them. And Guy and Prine and Towns and Lucinda Williams. I mean, her Essence record I wore out. And then Emmylou Harris and Red Dirt Girl, those records that were being made in the early 2000s or late 90s that then I picked up on, you know, kind of probably in 2005, 6, 8, right in the formative years of whenever I was starting to get into writing. I wanted to be those women. And I think that those strong storyteller type songs who, and then they put this production behind it that was gritty and electric, and then a sweet little mandolin would come in or something, you know, like they were combining all of
Mhm.
these things. And I just thought that it was so interesting sonically and lyrically that that's where I dove in, and that's what I tried to emulate from, like that's what I go back and listen to. And Lyle Lovett, and how the way that he's just like, I do what I want. If this song needs this, then I'll do it. If this song needs this, then I'll do that. You know, like it's kind of like they go song to song and do whatever that song needs, rather than I'm gonna be a rock and roller and make everything sound the same, or a Puritan country music, you know, that this song isn't country, it needs this and this. Well, it just actually, yeah, it may not be country. Just make
I'll,
it sound better.
I'll never forget. Uh, it's easier in more recent memory to recall when Sturgill Simpson won the Grammy for Best Country Album. And I remember he put a shirt on his website that said, "Who the fuck is Sturgill Simpson?" Because that was like
Right.
one of the first comments on Twitter. But I remember when Lyle Lovett's Road to Ensenada won the Grammy for
Yeah.
Best Country Album, and it's a remarkable album, along with when Joshua Judge's Ruth album, and and you know, again, it was one of those situations where he's not a Nashville country guy, he's a Texas country guy, and
Yeah.
it's a very different sound, very different feel. And you're right, Lyle kind of does what he wants to do, and it's a good segue into something I was curious about, and that, you know, when I listen to your music, I hear a lot of influences of folk and country, and rock and roll, and you know, obviously your music is not the kind of music that's going to ever be on traditional country radio anymore because it's just not poppy enough. Which is,
Right.
um, where do you categorize yourself? Are you just simply, you know what, I play music?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think I do believe that anything that comes out of my mouth automatically has a country slash folk thing,
Yeah,
because that's what my voice sounds like. Whenever I actually sing, that's what happens. So it doesn't really matter what the band does behind it. It's gonna end up falling into some part of that category. But I try not to. I mean, I love Tom Petty. Like I love, and he did the same thing. Like you listen to Wildflowers, and if Dolly Parton sang those songs, then it would be a country record, you know. But Tom Petty's got that edgy, you know, rock and roll voice, so it sounds this way over here. Like it just sometimes the actual voice of the singer dictates which side of the spectrum it falls on. But I also think that I don't know, I'll never make a heavy metal record, but I
Not that
might,
you know
you know,
of.
not
You,
that I know of,
not,
unless, you know, one of my kids becomes a metalhead and I fall in love with it somehow. Um, but I think that more important, you know, more important than saying I'm in whatever genre is like something that is authentic to myself. And I know that probably sounds so dumb, but I think that it's really important to stay authentic. And it doesn't mean that every song has to be true. And it doesn't mean that, you know, but as long as every song sounds like it's true.
well, I mean, not every
Like
song has
if
to be
it's,
by,
you know,
it
it's
doesn't have to be
like
autobiographical though. Not every song.
right. And yes, not everything has to be about something personal, but I think that if you stay true to yourself and don't start acting like, you know, you're something you're not, like it's the costumes and like I'm not a costume wearer. Some people are costume wearers and that is being true to themselves. And you can tell that. You can tell whenever people dress a certain way and they wear like really cool vintage things, and then that's who they are. Brennan Lee, I don't know if you're familiar with Brennan, but she's one of my very best friends and she has the coolest style, and she is retro. She is that in her heart, like in her soul she is, you know. And I think that I am just, I don't know, I'm a small town, like I'm a I'm sitting here in this 60s trailer that is next to a dog pen next to my husband's shop, like that. Like I try to stay true at least to that and tell stories of people that are, you know, rural. Maybe I'm rural music. If that was
Yeah.
easier to say, that would be a that might
Yeah.
catch on. I
I,
don't
I
know.
can I can understand exactly what you're saying because I mean I can really relate to it. I know that when I started my band Atomic Junk Shot, I felt so, I lacked so much confidence about my ability to play and perform that I didn't even go by my own name, and I wrote songs that were meaning to be uh, shockingly funny in a Tenacious D kind of way,
Right, yeah.
but it was more so because I was trying to make up for or distract from what I believed to be my lack of talent. And I reached a point where I was like, you know, you said earlier, you kind of reached a point where you kind of felt like you had control of your stage presence.
Right.
And I reached that point where I felt like I had that finally that I had been aching for, that I wanted, and I kind of ditched all that was inauthentic to me. I I had kind of gotten rid of lyrically, gotten tried to get away from things that were just meant to be shockingly funny and just more to be, I don't know, sarcastic in a
Yeah.
Ray Wiley Hubbard way, which is really where my true senses
Right.
lie.
Yeah.
So I
And
understand what
once
you're saying.
you, yeah, people ask me a lot, like, how did you get over stage fright? Because I had stage fright a lot.
Yeah.
And and the answer was, as soon as it happened like this, like just like a snap, as soon as I discovered that I was confident, like when I was confident in my abilities, I stopped being scared. And I started to go, oh, I can do this. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you people.
I'll
You know,
kick your ass.
like it's not even that. It's
Yeah.
just like, you can't, what are you going to do? You paid money to come in here and watch music, and I am the music. So like you're automatically on my team, right? Once I discovered that the people in the audience, I guess once I got far enough in my career to where I wasn't a nuisance, you know, you're not the person in the corner of the restaurant bothering somebody's meal. You know, that like once I realized that like these people in this crowd, they want me to win just as much as I want me to win. Nobody wants to sit up here and watch an awkward, horrible performer. So
Yeah.
like I'm going to go out there and I'm going to realize that they want me to win, and then I am going to win. And I don't need to be afraid of them because they're nice.
I found two things to be a nice realization for me. One, when people actually start paying attention to your point about the meals, when they
Yeah.
start paying attention and maybe stop eating their meals or take a
Right.
stop talking to their friends in the corner, and they're
Yeah.
actually like listening to you, and
Yeah.
you can see them kind of moving with it. The other thing is when clubs start inviting you back.
Right. That's it. That was a major thing with the Tricias, because we started getting gigs just based on the fact that we were all women. People would go, "Oh,
Yeah.
all girl band. This sounds cool. Let's book them." And I remember having a conversation with them where we were like, okay, people are going to, and it made us a little mad because we were all in other projects that were not being invited to do these things. And our other projects were really good before the Tricias. And so all of us were like, what the, I've been wanting to play this for years and they didn't let us until we're in a brand new band that's not even that good yet. And so I was asking them like, hey, here's the deal. We will get invited to these things, but we won't get invited back unless we're really good. So let's go in there to this really prestigious gig and then win them over. And then they will invite us back. We can't go in there and make a fool of ourselves. Like, so let's practice. And, everybody's like, yeah, hooray. And it worked. But yeah, the getting invited back is.
Nobody said the words hooray. Don't lie to me, okay? Nobody said that.
Hip, hip, hooray.
I don't believe that. Well, all right. So your first record, 2015, and then 2018, you come out with Jumping Over Rocks. And it seemed to be, from what I've read, and I mean, I've listened to the entire record, very well received critically. And I know you've put out some singles here and there. But it seems like you're kind of taking this very slow, methodical, and maybe this is because you're also raising 4 kids and you've talked about how
Right.
important that is, but a very kind of methodical means to your solo career, to where you play, even your road schedule. I was looking at your road schedule and see it's pretty selective, and I would imagine it's you try to shape that around being able to also be with your family.
Right.
Is that a huge part of your career, and as you navigate your career and what's next for you, trying to manage it around your family considerations as well?
That's all of it. I mean, whenever we stopped the Tricias so that I could, my part was so that I could make my schedule. Like, that has become a very important thing. I started to be very selective about gigs. I stopped taking shows that weren't worth it. And the worth it was, it had to be 2 of 3 things. Those things were a lot of money, a lot of exposure, or a lot of fun. And it could be money and fun, it could be exposure and fun, or like it couldn't be exposure and crappy. Nope, not doing it. I'm not going to go play. But I started to be very selective, and it worked. It has made me be able to sustain, having a family and having a job. Like, now my kids can understand, like, look, there will be several months of the year that are very busy, but, like, for example, January, I'm home for like a week in January. But January gets us to the spring, which right now I'm not busy. And the reason is because I want to coach my daughter's softball team. So I'm booking 0 gigs until I know that schedule. And then I'll fill in the rest of the spring through May with shows that are not on those days that we have games or practices. And I tell them that, like, I want to be able to do things with y'all, so I have to make hay while the sun shines. This is my job. Also, like, in the summertime, I try to schedule shows that I can take them with me so that they don't have to stay home and I'm gone. So, like, we're going to go to Colorado and see the Grand Canyon and see the Four Corners and do a whole trip where I'm playing gigs through Southern Colorado and they're getting to see cool things. And so a lot of it has to do with the kids' schedules. Like, I don't like playing the first week of the summer. I won't play Memorial Day or Labor Day weekends because that's when school ends and school starts. and I have all their birthdays blocked on the calendar. And and I have, I try to get their teachers to tell me when field trips are in advance so that I can drive for the field trips, because I know that sometimes I miss things. Like, I'm not their everyday mom. So I would love to be able to drive their class for the field trip so that I'm at least that. So then they clear all those days with me ahead of time to make sure that I'm here. So far it's worked. And yeah, I mean, with regard to like, I am on my own timeline with putting out records and writing songs and all of that, because like, I mean, at the same time as I put out a record last time, I had a baby, the fourth baby. That's a lot of children. I had him in August. And I was putting out singles when the week I had him.
He was
like, I was
arguably
releasing
your first single. He was the first single.
Yes, he was the third single released for that record. So like, I was having a baby and releasing songs, and then that record came out in October. He was 3 months old, and we 2 months old, and we went on the road. And so between having he's 3 now, between having a tiny baby and a toddler, and then pandemic, and then, everybody is telling me, why aren't you writing songs in the pandemic? I'm like, I'm homeschooling 4 children. So I will not be doing that. I see your pressure and I refuse it. I will write songs when I want to, which is about right now.
Yeah.
I'm just back in there where I decided, like, you know what, like, okay, let's try. Like, let's figure it out. I've kind of got a couple projects in my head that I want to make happen within the next year and a half, at least get started. And I've got them marinating. They just now have to get out somehow.
So what's the next big thing for you?
Well, hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have the whole year booked out. I know that I'll be going through the Midwest and the Southeast. I'll head over to Colorado, New Mexico. Oh, I get to go do a thing in Mexico with Roger Klein. Roger Klein and the Peacemakers. So they have a festival in June, so I get to go do that. And then up to Minnesota. Like, I'm kind of doing this all summer, like just crisscrossing everywhere. And then hopefully I will be going to Nashville to get together with some friends that I have. I have this whole plan of like, let's book a certain number of days and write a whole bunch of songs and just make a record. Like, go there with no songs, end up with a bunch of songs, and a very collaborative kind of, hopefully a real collaborative, thoughtful, gritty kind of thing that comes together quickly is my plan. Love that for me. No pressure.
Very good. Jamie Lin Wilson, it's been great having you on the Loadout Music Podcast. Wish you the best of luck in the future. Thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time with us and hanging out in that shed next to the workshop.
I know. I'm sorry. It's so windy here today. Like, the internet was cutting out on us, but this is small town. We don't have the Google fiber here yet.
It's all good. Thank you so much for being on the show.
All right. Thanks so much, Aaron.
Hey folks, if you made it this far, and judging by our numbers you haven't, thanks for listening to the Loadout Music Podcast. You can always find us at loadoutmusic.com and then wherever you like to get your podcasts, like iTunes or SoundCloud. And of course, as always, thanks to Gaslight Studios for hosting us. Have a good one.